Tonight is quiet. Maybe the room around you is dim and soft, the way evenings often are when everything important has already happened for the day. The busy parts are over. The messages can wait. The decisions can wait. The questions can wait, but sometimes, even when the world slows down, your thoughts do not. Maybe that's why you're here. Maybe there's something ahead of you, tomorrow, next week, next year, that feels big and uncertain. A choice to make. A change coming. Or maybe it's not just one thing. Maybe it's the whole idea of the future itself, stretching out like a road you can't quite see, and your heart isn't sure how to feel about that, if that's true for you. You're not alone, you're here, and you're breathing, and that's already enough for now. There's nothing you have to fix in this moment. You don't have to figure out the rest of your life while you're lying here. You don't have to know exactly where you're going. The night does not ask that of you. The night asks only that you rest for a while outside, somewhere beyond your window. The sky is holding a quiet darkness. Maybe there are stars above, scattered like tiny lanterns. Maybe clouds are drifting slowly, like they have all the time in the world. Maybe a gentle rain is falling, tapping softly on roofs and leaves and little puddles that shine in the streetlights. The world is moving at a calm, unhurried pace. And you are allowed to move slowly too. If you listen closely, you might imagine the hush of distant trees standing together in the dark, their branches full of secrets and soft sounds. You might picture a small cabin somewhere in a valley, a warm light glowing in one window, a thin ribbon of smoke curling up into the night. Inside, someone is safe, wrapped in blankets, listening to the soft crackle of a fire, the quiet whisper of wind at the door. Tonight, that someone can be you. You are allowed to be the person inside the safe, warm cabin, even if your cabin is a bedroom, and your fire is just the soft glow of a lamp or the gentle hum of a fan. Safety is not about where you are. It is about knowing that, in this moment, you don't have to do anything more than simply be. You've been carrying so much. Thoughts about what might happen. Thoughts about what could go wrong. Thoughts about what you need to become. And yet here you are, already enough, just as you are, in this very moment. The future may feel big and unknown. But you don't have to hold it all at once, so tonight, instead of trying to see every step of the road ahead, let's walk into a story together. A quiet story. A gentle one. A story about someone who was afraid of the future too, and who learned that it was okay not to know, that it was okay to take life one small step at a time. As you listen, you might feel your shoulders soften just a little. You might notice your breath moving in and out, slowly, naturally. You might allow yourself to lean into the softness of your pillow, the support beneath you, the comfort around you. You are safe here. You are allowed to rest here. You are not alone here. Whenever you're ready, we'll begin. The Valley of Lantern Light, in a quiet valley, surrounded by gentle, rolling hills and distant blue-gray mountains, there was a small village. At night, the village looked like a handful of stars had fallen from the sky and settled on the earth, each tiny house a glowing dot of amber light in the dark. At the very edge of this village, where the last cobblestone path turned into a soft, mossy trail that led into the woods, there stood a little cabin. It had a sloping roof, a narrow porch, and a lantern that hung by the door. In the evenings, the lantern shone with a warm, golden light that swayed slightly when the wind passed by. In this cabin lived a young woman named Mira. Mira had kind eyes and a quiet way of moving through the world. She listened more than she spoke. She noticed the way the wind slipped through the tall grass, the way raindrops gathered like tiny beads on the edge of leaves, the way the mountains changed color when the sun rose and fell. But lately, even with all the beauty around her, her heart felt heavy. The future seemed like a vast, shadowy forest, full of paths she couldn't see clearly. She had decisions ahead of her, choices about where to go, what to become, who to be. Every path looked important. Every possibility felt like it carried the weight of everything. And at night, when the village grew quiet and the stars came out, her thoughts grew loud. One evening, after a long day of trying to plan and predict, Mira sat by her window and looked out into the deep blue of the sky. The moon was a gentle silver crescent, hanging low over the mountains. A few stars sparkled faintly around it, like distant campfires. She rested her forehead against the cool glass and whispered, "I'm scared of what's next." Her voice was so soft that even the room barely heard it. But inside, the words felt big. Being scared of the future made her feel small and unsure, like she had to somehow solve everything before it even happened. Her breath came a little faster, her thoughts looping around the same worries. What if I choose wrong? What if I'm not enough for what's coming? What if I don't know what to do? She closed her eyes and let out a slow, shaky exhale. Then, almost without deciding to, she stood up, took her small lantern from its hook, and lit it. The flame blinked to life, soft and steady, sending its gentle glow across the walls. Shadows stretched and moved like sleepy animals settling down. Mira wrapped a shawl around her shoulders, opened her door, and stepped out into the night. The air was cool and tender, like a kind hand on a warm forehead. The sky above the village was deep and wide, sprinkled with stars. Her lantern made a small circle of light around her feet, the cobblestones gleaming just a little in its glow. She took a slow breath. The air smelled of damp earth, pine needles, and distant wood smoke. As she walked down the path, the village became quieter behind her, doors closed, windows dimmed, voices tucked away into dreams. At the edge of the village, the cobblestones ended and the forest path began, soft and dark and lined with tall trees. Mira hesitated for a moment, looking into the shadows. But the forest she knew was gentle at night. The trees seemed to watch over the world like patient guardians. She stepped onto the path, and the lantern's light followed her, touching the roots and leaves and ferns along the way. The forest that listens, the forest at night was a peaceful place. The trees rose up on either side of the path, their trunks strong and still, their branches weaving together above like quiet hands. Here and there, small patches of sky peeked through, showing a sprinkle of stars. The moonlight slipped between the leaves and lay on the path in soft, silver shapes. Crickets sang their steady, gentle songs from hidden corners. Somewhere deeper in the woods, an owl gave a soft, distant call, as if reminding the night that it, too, was awake. Mira walked slowly, the lantern swaying with each step, making the light around her dance. Her shawl brushed against her arms, and her boots pressed into the earth with a soft, muted sound. Each step felt like a small decision she could handle. Her thoughts, which had been racing in circles back in the cabin, began to stretch out and lengthen, like a string gently untangling. She noticed the way her breath moved in and out, steady and quiet. She noticed the way the cool air touched her face. She noticed the way the lantern's glow made the forest feel small and close and kind. Still, the questions were there. What if I fail? What if I make the wrong choice? What if I never figure it out? She lifted the lantern, watching the light reach a little farther down the path before fading gently back into the dark. It occurred to her then that the lantern never tried to light the whole forest. It only ever glowed enough to show the next few steps. That was all. She slowed, letting that thought rest inside her mind like a small, smooth stone. The lantern did not worry about distant crossroads. It just shone where it was, steadily, calmly, doing the quiet work of lighting the next step. As she continued walking, she imagined the forest listening to her thoughts. The trees, tall and steady, had seen countless seasons. They had watched summers and winters, watched people come and go, watched the world change and soften and grow again. They did not panic about tomorrow. They just reached their roots deeper and lifted their leaves to the sky year after year, trusting that the sun would rise and the rain would fall. Even when they could not see the clouds, Mira let out a long, gentle sigh. Her shoulders loosened a little beneath her shawl. Her hand around the lantern handle relaxed. In the quiet of the path, with stars above and soft earth below, she realized that maybe the future did not have to be something she controlled. Maybe it could be something she met, one step at a time, lantern in hand, breathing gently. Still, it was hard not to worry. The thoughts rose and fell like small waves. But each time they rose, they seemed a little softer, a little slower, as if the forest had wrapped them in moss and leaves and gentle night air. She walked on, and soon she began to hear it, the sound of water, the river of small reflections. The path eventually opened onto a clearing where a river moved calmly through the valley. It was not a rushing river, not wild or loud. It flowed with an easy, steady motion, its surface like a long, dark ribbon laid between the trees. Moonlight fell across the water, painting silvery streaks that shimmered whenever the current shifted. Little ripples caught the lantern's glow as Mira approached, and for a moment the river looked like a mirror scattered with tiny sparks of gold. She stepped onto a small wooden bridge that crossed the river. The bridge creaked softly under her weight, a familiar, friendly sound. It had been there since she was small, a simple, sturdy thing that held without fuss. At the center of the bridge, she stopped. The night wrapped around her like a blanket, forest behind her, forest ahead, the soft whisper of water beneath. She held the lantern at her side and leaned on the railing, looking down at the river where the moon and stars were stretched and swayed by the current. Her reflection appeared in the water, faint and gently distorted, blending with the shimmering light of the sky. For a moment, she imagined the river was listening too, carrying her worries downstream, away to some distant, quiet place. She let her fingers rest on the wooden rail, feeling the smooth grain beneath her palm. Her breath slowed, matching, almost without her noticing, the gentle rhythm of the water below. "I'm scared," she admitted quietly, not sure if she was talking to the river, the trees, or herself. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my life. I don't know what's coming." The river flowed on, gentler than any answer, yet full of one. It didn't know what lay around every bend, either. It just kept moving, one curve at a time, trusting the shape of the land, trusting gravity, trusting something bigger than itself to carry it forward. Mira watched a leaf float by, spinning lazily in the water. It didn't fight the current. It didn't try to rush ahead. It simply rested on the surface, going where the river carried it, turning slowly, catching glints of moonlight along the way. Her eyes softened. Her grip on the railing loosened. Somewhere deep inside, beneath the worry, there was a small, quiet voice that said, "You don't have to know everything tonight. You are allowed to be exactly where you are. You are allowed to be learning, still unfolding, still in between." She took a calm, slow breath. The cool air filled her lungs, then left just as softly. At the far side of the river, tucked among the trees, she noticed something she had never seen before, or perhaps had never paid attention to, a tiny cabin with light glowing faintly in the window. Smoke rose from its chimney in a thin, pale strand, dissolving into the night sky. Curiosity brushed against her thoughts, gentle and quiet. The cabin looked safe and inviting, like a resting place in the middle of a long journey, Holding her lantern a little higher, she stepped off the bridge and followed a narrow path along the riverbank toward the little house with the warm light, the cabin by the water. The cabin was simple and welcoming. Its walls were made of old, weathered wood that told stories of many seasons. The roof was covered with soft, dark shingles, and moss grew in the little spaces between them. A small porch wrapped around the front, with a chair and a folded blanket resting on it as if waiting for someone to come and sit. The warm glow from the single window spilled onto the porch, laying a rectangle of golden light across the floorboards. Mira hesitated at the edge of the clearing, her lantern held close to her chest. She wasn't sure if she should approach, but something about the place felt kind and gentle, like a hand extended, not demanding, just offering. Before she could decide what to do, the door opened with a quiet creak. An older woman stood in the doorway, wrapped in a soft, layered shawl. Her hair was silver and loose around her shoulders, catching the lantern light. Her eyes were deep and calm, like still pools that had reflected many skies. "Oh," the woman said, her voice low and warm. "There you are." Mira blinked, a little surprised. Do you know me?" "In a way," the woman replied, with a small smile. "I know that look on your face. You're carrying tomorrow on your shoulders, aren't you? Come in, child. The night is cold, and you look like you've been walking with too many thoughts." The words felt like a soft blanket being set around her. Mira stood still for a moment longer, then nodded and stepped toward the cabin. As she crossed the threshold, the scent of chamomile and wood smoke embraced her. Inside, the cabin was cozy and simple. Bundles of dried herbs hung from the ceiling. A kettle whispered on a small stove. Shelves lined the walls, filled with books, small wooden carvings, smooth stones, and glass jars of tea leaves and spices. A fire crackled politely in the hearth, not loud, just a quiet, steady sound. Shadows from the flames danced slowly on the walls, like sleepy dancers moving in slow circles. "Sit, please," the woman said, gesturing toward a cushioned chair near the fire. "My name is Rowan." "Mira," she replied softly, lowering herself into the chair. It hugged her tired body like it had been waiting just for her. Rowan poured hot water into 2 cups, steam curling up in soft, ghost-like ribbons. She added a pinch of herbs to each, then brought one to Mira. "Chamomile and lemon balm," she said. "Good for hearts that are thinking too loudly about the future." Mira accepted the cup, the warmth seeping into her hands, then into her arms, then into her chest. The fragrant steam rose gently toward her face. She took a small sip, the taste mild and soothing. For a little while, neither of them spoke. The fire crackled. The kettle whispered. Outside, the river kept flowing. The night kept breathing. Finally, Rowan leaned back in her own chair and studied Mira with kind eyes. "Tell me," she said. "What does your heart keep saying when you try to sleep?" Mira stared into her cup. The tea rippled faintly. "It says, I don't know what I'm doing," she answered quietly. "It says I should have everything figured out by now. It says time is moving and I'm standing still, and that if I don't make the right choices, I'll ruin everything. The future feels so big. I'm scared of it." The word scared came out soft, almost apologetic, as if she felt she shouldn't feel that way. Rowan nodded slowly. "That's a heavy story to carry alone," she said gently. "No wonder sleep has been shy with you." Myra's eyes prickled with little tears she hadn't expected. She blinked them away, but Rowan noticed and gave her a look full of understanding, not pity. "It's all right," Rowan said. You know, only very thoughtful hearts worry about the future like this. Only hearts that care about doing well and being kind and making meaning feel this kind of weight. Do you know what that means? Mira shook her head. It means your fear does not make you weak, Rowan continued. It means you care. It means you're alive and paying attention. It means there is something in you that wants to grow, patiently, steadily, at its own pace. Mira took another sip of tea. The warmth seemed to move through her like a soft, glowing thread. But what if I choose the wrong path? She asked quietly. What if I'm not ready? What if I'm not enough for what's coming? Rowan looked into the fire for a moment, as if asking it for the right words. Have you ever walked through the forest at night with a lantern? She asked. Mira glanced at the little lantern she'd set on the small table by her chair, its light calm and constant. Yes, she said. That's how I got here. Then you know, Rowan said softly, that a lantern never shows you the whole forest at once. It doesn't reveal every turn, every tree, every stone. It only gives you enough light for the next few steps. But somehow, you still arrive where you need to be. Step by step. Mira watched the lantern, its flame gently breathing inside the glass. The future is like that, Rowan continued. You are not meant to see the whole path from here. You are meant to take one kind step, one honest step, one small step at a time. You are meant to listen to yourself, to rest when you are tired, to learn as you go. You are allowed to not know. She paused, letting the words sink into the quiet. You are allowed to not know. She repeated more softly. And still be okay. Mira felt something loosen inside her chest, like a knot starting to unwind. But what if there are many paths? She whispered. How do I know which one is right? Rowan's eyes twinkled faintly, like hidden stars. Some paths are different, she said, but many lead to the same places, to love, to learning, to growth, to small joys, to new mornings. The right path is often just the one you choose with kindness for yourself. The one where you stay gentle with your own heart. The one where you keep listening, adjusting, and forgiving yourself along the way. Mira leaned back into the chair, the cushions holding her like a quiet embrace. Her body felt heavier, in a pleasant way, like it was finally surrendering some of the weight it had been carrying. You are not late, Rowan added softly. You are not behind. You are exactly where a person like you would be, with the story you've had, with the heart you carry. You're doing better than you think. Myra's eyes grew a little blurry again, but this time the warmth in her chest spread along with the tears. The words felt like soft affirmations laid gently on all the tender places inside her. You're not late. You are allowed to not know. You're doing better than you think. You are enough for this moment, just as you are. Outside, the wind brushed against the cabin walls. A quiet, rustling sound. The distant murmur of the river was like someone humming a lullaby far away. Rowan rose slowly from her chair. Come, she said. Let's step outside for a moment. The stars can be very kind storytellers. The stars above the river. Mira set her empty cup down and stood, wrapping her shawl more tightly around her shoulders. Together, she and Rowan stepped out onto the small porch of the cabin. The night wrapped around them gently, cool and deep and full of quiet sounds. The river whispering, leaves rustling softly, crickets singing their patient songs. Above, the sky stretched wide and soft, sprinkled with stars. The moon had climbed a little higher, pouring silver over the river, the trees, the roof of the cabin. It felt as though the whole valley was covered in a thin veil of light. Rowan lifted her face to the sky. Do you see those stars? She asked, pointing gently. Mira followed her gaze. There, just above the treeline, a small cluster of stars shimmered closely together. They look like a little handful of light, Mira said. They're very far away, Rowan replied, and yet their light finds you here, tonight, exactly where you stand. It left them long ago, traveling through darkness for longer than you can imagine, just to arrive now at your eyes. It did not hurry. It did not worry. It simply kept going, because that is what light does. She lowered her hand. The future is a little like that too, she said. There are lights already on their way to you, people you haven't met yet, moments you haven't lived yet, kindness you haven't felt yet. You don't have to know all of them now. You only have to trust that they are moving toward you, slowly and surely, in their own time. Mira stood very still, letting that image settle inside her, distant stars sending out light long before she ever knew to look for it, and yet, here it was, gently brushing her face, glimmering in her eyes. She took a slow breath, feeling the cool air fill her lungs and leave again, soft and easy. Her body felt heavier, steadier, rooted to the wooden porch like a tree anchored deep into the soil. You are allowed, Rowan said softly, to hope that good things are already on their way to you. You are allowed to believe that you will grow into who you need to be, little by little. You are allowed to rest, even while you are becoming. Mira closed her eyes for a moment. In the darkness behind her eyelids, she saw the shape of a path through the forest, lit step by a small lantern. She saw herself walking, not rushing, not forcing, just moving forward at a gentle pace. She saw her future not as a looming shadow, but as a series of mornings, each one arrived at after a night of rest. Her shoulders softened again. When she opened her eyes, the stars were still there, patient and unchanged. The river still flowed, unbothered by the shape of tomorrow's banks. Would you like to stay here tonight? Rowan asked quietly. I have a small room with a bed that looks out to the trees. Sometimes, when the future feels too large, it helps to have one small place where you are simply safe, where you are allowed to be tired and to sleep. Mira felt a wave of relief wash through her, gentle and complete. Yes, she said. I would like that. Good, Rowan replied, her voice like a soft blanket being spread over cool sheets. Come then. The future can wait. Tonight belongs to your rest. The room of quiet mornings, Rowan led Mira down a short hallway lit by a single candle. The flame flickered softly, painting golden shadows along the walls. At the end of the hallway, there was a narrow wooden door. Rowan opened it slowly, revealing a small, peaceful room. A simple bed sat beneath a wide window that looked out into the forest. The sheets were white and soft, the blanket a gentle shade of gray-blue, like the sky just before dawn. A small table held another candle, already lit, its flame steady and calm. On the windowsill, a tiny vase held a few sprigs of dried lavender. The room smelled faintly of lavender, wood, and something warm, maybe sunlight trapped in the wooden floorboards from earlier that day. This room is for resting hearts, Rowan said quietly. You can leave tomorrow outside the door for tonight. It will be there in the morning, but it won't be as loud, I think. Mira stepped inside. The bed looked so inviting, so safe, that she felt her body responding before her mind could catch up. Her eyes grew heavier. Her muscles realized they could finally soften. Rowan placed a folded quilt at the foot of the bed. If your thoughts start to wander again, she said, remember the lantern on the path. Remember the river carrying things away. Remember the stars, whose light travels a long, long way without rushing. Remember that you are allowed to move at your own pace. Her voice grew even softer. You are allowed to be uncertain and still be worthy of love. You are allowed to be learning and still be good. You are allowed to rest, even if you don't have all the answers. Myra's throat tightened gently at those words. They were like warm hands cupping her heart, reminding it that it did not have to beat so fast. "Thank you," she whispered. Rowan smiled, and in her smile there was no expectation, no demand, only acceptance. "Sleep well, Mira," she said. "The night is holding you now." She stepped back, leaving the room with a quiet click of the door. Her footsteps faded down the hallway, leaving only the delicate sounds of the night, crickets outside, the soft whisper of the wind against the window, the distant hush of the river. Mira stood for a moment, taking in the room, the calm, the gentle light of the candle on the table. Then she sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress gave under her weight with a quiet sigh, as if relieved to finally hold someone. She slipped off her shoes and lay down, pulling the blanket up around her. The fabric felt smooth and comforting on her skin, like a hug that expected nothing in return. The pillow cradled her head, holding it as tenderly as a cupped palm. She turned her face slightly toward the window, where the faint outline of trees could be seen against the night sky. A few stars peeked through, tiny but bright. Her eyes traced the shapes of the branches, the way they reached upward and outward, unafraid of the space around them. Her breathing, without being told to, slowed. In, out, soft and calm, like waves on a gentle shore, like the river moving under the bridge. Thoughts still moved in her mind, but they were slower now, softer around the edges. The worries about the future felt like they'd been wrapped in blankets, still there, but quieter, less sharp, less urgent. She remembered Rowan's words, "You are allowed to not know. You are not late. You are doing better than you think. You are allowed to rest." Each phrase settled over her like another layer of softness. Her body grew heavier, sinking into the mattress. Her hands relaxed at her sides. Her eyelids fluttered, then rested. Outside, the forest kept watch. The river kept singing its low, continuous song. The stars kept glowing, sending their distant, patient light. The night, with all its gentle sounds and soft shadows, held her safely as she drifted toward sleep, the dream of many paths. As Myra's body relaxed more deeply, her mind floated into that in-between space where waking thoughts and dreams begin to meld. She felt the bed beneath her, the blanket around her, the faint coolness of the air on her face. At the same time, she saw herself standing once again at the edge of a forest path, lantern in hand, but this time the scene was softer, more dreamlike. In this dream, the path did not feel heavy or frightening. It felt curious and open, like a story waiting to be told. Around her, the trees were gently lit by small, glowing lanterns hanging from their branches. They swayed slightly in a breeze she could not feel, casting circles of pale light onto the earth. Fireflies drifted like tiny stars around her, blinking slowly in the dark. Ahead of her, the path split into several smaller trails, each leading into a different part of the forest. Some were lined with wildflowers. Some were shaded by thick, leafy branches. Some led toward distant mountains, others toward a quiet meadow, others toward the sound of a waterfall. In her waking life, the sight of many paths might have made her anxious. Which one is right? Which one is safe? Which one leads to where I'm supposed to go? But here, in her dream, the paths felt patient and kind. None of them seemed to demand her choice. None of them looked like a trap. They simply existed, waiting calmly, knowing that whichever she chose would offer something, as she held her lantern up. The nearest path lit up just a little more, showing her a few smooth stones, a patch of soft moss, the faint outline of footprints that might have been hers, or someone else's, long ago. She heard Rowan's voice echo softly through the trees, as though carried by the wind. You don't have to see the end to begin. You only need enough light for the next step. Mira looked down at her lantern. Its glow was warm and familiar, just as it had been in the forest and in Rowan's cabin. It illuminated her hands, her shoes, the small patch of earth beneath her feet. She realized something important then. In the gentle clarity of the dream, the light did not come from the forest, or the cabin, or the future she was chasing. It came from what she carried with her, her courage, her kindness, her willingness to keep moving forward even when she didn't know exactly where she'd end up. There was a softness in knowing that. The dream shifted slightly, and suddenly she saw herself walking down one of the paths, then another, and another, not all at once, but like a story told in several chapters. In one, she lived near the river, learning its rhythms and sounds. In another, she lived close to the mountains, finding strength in their stillness. In another, she tended a garden in a sunny clearing, coaxing flowers and herbs from the soil. In every version of her life, there were moments of uncertainty, yes, but also moments of laughter, of quiet mornings, of warm evenings spent with people who cared. In every version, she learned things she didn't know before. In every version, she grew more gentle with herself over time. The dream was showing her something true, that there was no single perfect path she had to find in order to deserve peace. There were many ways to live, many ways to grow. What mattered most was how she walked, with care, with curiosity, with compassion for her own tender heart. The paths, one by one, blurred and softened like watercolor. The forest around her grew hazy and comforting. The lantern's light dimmed a little, not out of fear, but as if it, too, were ready to rest. Mira felt herself sinking more deeply into sleep, the dream dissolving into a warm, velvety darkness. The feeling that remained was simple and calm. There is time. I am allowed to learn as I go. I don't have to pressure myself to know everything now. I am safe enough in this moment. Her breathing grew slower, more even, like a calm tide that had found its gentle rhythm, the quiet of almost morning. Time passed softly in the valley. The moon drifted along its path across the sky, watching the village in the forest and the little cabin by the river. Clouds moved lazily, covering stars and revealing them again, like someone slowly turning pages of a book. In Myra's room, the candle on the table burned lower, its flame small and steady. Eventually, it went out with a tiny sigh, leaving the room in the soft, blue-gray darkness that comes before dawn. But even without the candle, the space did not feel empty or cold. It felt wrapped in the quiet presence of the trees outside, the river's constant whisper, the first faint hints of morning. Mira slept. As she slept, her body slowly released the tension it had been holding for so long, tension in her shoulders, her jaw, her hands. Her face was peaceful, lips parted slightly, eyes moving gently under closed lids as her dreams continued their quiet work of sorting and soothing. Sleep held her like a safe. Dark river, carrying her gently along, not asking anything of her except to rest. In another part of the cabin, Rowan sat in a chair by the fire, which had now burned down to soft, glowing embers. She knew the language of tired hearts. She understood that sometimes, the kindest thing you can offer someone who is afraid of the future is not advice or answers, but a place to rest, a room where they are allowed to put everything down. She glanced once toward the hallway that led to Myra's room, a small, knowing smile touching her lips, and then she, too, closed her eyes, drifting into her own quiet sleep. Outside, the forest watched over them both. The trees stood still and strong. The moss and ferns curled peacefully on the ground. A light mist began to rise from the river, wrapping the water in a soft, silver veil. The first early birds rustled lightly in their nests, not quite ready to sing yet, but slowly waking. The mountains in the distance were still only vague shapes against the sky, but their presence was solid. They had stood there for ages, through countless futures, countless unknowns. They had seen people come and go, worries rise and fall. Still they remained, steady and patient. In this very stillness, there was a quiet promise. The world would keep turning, morning would come gently, and when Mira woke, she would not have to solve everything. She would only need to meet one new moment at a time, waking softly. When morning finally began to arrive, it did so slowly, respectfully. Light crept into the sky little by little, trading the deep blue of night for softer shades of gray, then hints of pink and gold. The forest stirred, leaves catching the first glints of dawn. The river shone more clearly, its surface like glass in some places, like scattered diamonds in others. In Myra's room, the darkness softened, revealing the shapes of the furniture, the outline of the blanket. The curve of her shoulder. She woke gradually, not all at once, like someone rising from the bottom of a warm pool. Her first awareness was of comfort, the warmth of the blanket, the softness of the mattress beneath her, the gentle support of the pillow under her head. She took a slow, natural breath. Her second awareness was of quiet, no urgent sounds, no loud alarms, nothing demanding her attention. Just birds beginning to sing somewhere outside, and the faint, soothing murmur of the river. Her third awareness was of herself, the fact that she felt lighter. The worries had not disappeared entirely. She still remembered that she had choices to make, paths to consider. But they no longer pressed against her chest like a weight. Instead, they floated somewhere in the background, like clouds that might change shape throughout the day. What was most present in this moment was a simple, steady sense of okayness. She opened her eyes and turned her head toward the window. The sky was pale and soft, with a few wisps of clouds drifting lazily. The trees outside were clearly visible now, their leaves gently moving in a cool morning breeze. She let her gaze rest there for a long time, just watching the way the light touched the branches. Inside her, a quiet thought rose. I made it through the night. I rested. I am still here. And with that thought came another. If I can make it through one night, one moment, one breath, maybe I can make it through one step of the future at a time too. She sat up slowly, the blanket falling softly around her waist. Her body felt a little heavy in that pleasant, waking way, but rested. She stretched her arms, feeling her muscles lengthen gently, her joints loosen, as if her body were greeting the day with a small, silent hello. When she finally stepped out of the room and walked into the main part of the cabin, Rowan was already at the stove, humming quietly as she heated water in the kettle. "Good morning," Rowan said, turning with a soft smile. "Good morning," Mira replied, her voice a little husky from sleep, but warm. "How did you rest?" Rowan asked. Mira thought for a moment, checking in with herself. "I rested well," she said. "Better than I have in a long time." "I'm glad," Rowan said. "Sometimes, the kindest thing we can do for the future is to sleep through the night beforehand." Mira smiled, a small, genuine curve of her lips, as they shared a simple breakfast, warm bread, a bit of jam, a cup of tea. They talked lightly, not about big decisions or heavy questions, but about the forest, the river, the way the light looked on the mountains in different seasons. When it was finally time for Mira to leave, Rowan walked with her to the door. "The path back will feel shorter," Rowan said. "It always does after you've rested." Mira lifted her lantern, unlit now in the daylight, but still solid in her hand. "Thank you," she said again. "For the room. For the tea. For the words." Rowan shook her head gently. "You did the bravest part. she said. You let yourself rest. You trusted the night to hold you. She laid a light hand over Myra's. Whenever the future feels too big again, she said, remember that you have done this before. You have walked through nights of worry and still arrived at new mornings. Remember that you have a lantern inside you that will always light at least the next step. Mira felt those words settle into her like seeds, ready to bloom in their own time. I'll remember, she said. Then she stepped off the porch and back onto the path along the river, the morning light guiding her this time instead of the lantern. The forest, now lit by the sun, looked different but just as gentle. Birds hopped from branch to branch. Dew shone on the leaves in small spider webs, turning them into tiny, glittering nets of light. As she crossed the wooden bridge once more, she paused, looking down at the river. It flowed calmly, as it had during the night, unchanged and trustworthy. I don't know exactly what's coming, she whispered to herself. But maybe that's okay. Maybe I don't have to know everything yet. Maybe I can just take one step at a time. The river seemed to agree, carrying her reflection forward, smoothing it, stretching it, then releasing it gently downstream. She took a slow breath. Her chest rose and fell with ease. By the time she reached the village again, the streets were beginning to wake up, a shutter opening here, someone sweeping a doorstep there, the smell of fresh bread drifting from a bakery. Her little cabin at the edge of the village looked the same as it always had, with its sloping roof and its lantern by the door. But as she stepped inside, Mira felt that she was not quite the same. She hung her lantern back on its hook, ran a gentle hand along the window frame, and looked out at the day beginning. The future was still there, of course, but it no longer towered over her like a shadow. It waited, quietly, beyond the horizon of today, willing to meet her when she was ready, step by step. For now, it was enough to be here, in this morning, in this body, with this breath. She smiled, a soft, private smile, and felt a quiet strength blooming inside her, small but steady. Like a lantern in the dark, a peaceful closing for you. And now, in your own room, in your own night, the story has gently found its place beside you. You might feel, like Mira, that the future is still uncertain. The questions may still exist. The paths may still be many. But maybe, just for this moment, the weight of it all can soften a little. You have made it through many nights before. You have carried yourself all the way here, to this moment, to this breath. You have already survived so many unknowns. You have already walked through days you once worried about. You are allowed to rest now. You don't have to solve everything tonight. You don't have to choose every path tonight. You don't have to be perfect for tomorrow to arrive. Like the forest, you can simply stand where you are, rooted in this moment, breathing gently, letting the night air wrap around you. Like the river, your life can move at its own pace, finding its path one curve at a time, without needing to see the whole journey all at once. Like the stars, there is light already on its way to you, warmth and kindness and small, beautiful moments that you haven't met yet. You are allowed to hope for those things. You are allowed to take up space while you learn. You are allowed to rest while the future waits calmly on the other side of sleep. Feel the support beneath you, steady and reliable. Feel the softness around you, blankets, pillows, the quiet of the room. Notice your breath, moving in and out all on its own, asking nothing from you, in and out, slow and easy. Like the tide, like the wind moving through leaves, like a gentle whisper saying, you are safe here. If any thoughts of tomorrow arise, you can imagine setting them down gently on a small wooden table by the door of your mind, like Mira leaving her worries outside the room where she slept. You don't have to throw them away. You can simply let them rest somewhere else for the night. They will be there in the morning if you need them. But they don't need your attention right now. Right now is for you. For your heart, which has been working so hard. For your mind, which has been trying its best. For your body, which deserves to sink into softness and let go. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where someone like you would be. With everything you've carried, with everything you've learned, you are allowed to be in between. You are allowed to be unsure. You are allowed to be a work in progress and still be worthy of peace. As the night wraps itself gently around your world, you can imagine a small, safe cabin at the edge of a forest, with a single warm light in the window. Inside, there is a bed just for you, soft and welcoming, a place where the whole world is invited to grow quiet. In that imagined cabin, you pull the blanket around your shoulders. You feel the pillow cradle your head. You feel your breath slowing, your thoughts softening, your body growing heavier in the most comforting way. The future can wait at the door. Tonight, it is enough that you are here. It is enough that you are breathing. It is enough that you are you. Let the sound of your own gentle breathing be like the river. Let the darkness behind your closed eyes be like the forest holding you. Let the softness under you be like the earth, steady and kind. You don't have to do anything more. You don't have to try. You can simply rest. The night is watching over you, patient and quiet. The stars, even if you can't see them, are still there. Morning will come when it is time, bringing new light, new chances, new small steps to take. For now, you are safe, you are cared for, you are enough. Let yourself drift, slowly, gently, like a leaf on a calm river, carried by something steady and kind. In this softness, in this quiet, in this moment between waking and sleep, you can let go. You are allowed to fall asleep peacefully. You are allowed to rest deeply. You are allowed to enter a calm, healing sleep, where your heart can loosen, your mind can quiet, and your body can restore itself. The story is ending now, but your rest is just beginning. The future can wait. Tonight, you are safe. Tonight, you are held. Tonight, you can sleep.